Thank you for joining me on episode 1 of the Comeback Series. In a later video, I'll get into why it's called the Comeback Series. But to kick things off, we're talking about how to create your own home gym with not a lot of money and not a lot of space. So I'm going to show you how I did it. I'll show you some footage of what my gym looks like and some creative things I've done along the way. So, my home gym started a few years ago when I moved into this new duplex, which created a lot of problems. I couldn't set up my weights on the first floor because there's a basement below it. So anytime I dropped a weight, it would, risk damaging the floor for one, but it also sent a lot of vibration throughout the house. And with it being a duplex, the neighbors on the other side of the duplex would hear everything. So that was not an option. The basement was the only option I had, and it really wasn't a great setup because it was a concrete floor, but the floor was not level. First plans to build my home gym were to build a deadlift platform, like a DIY platform sort of thing. I found a video on YouTube on how to do it using a rubber horse stall mat and plywood. But I learned pretty fast that wasn't going to work because my floor, the concrete floor isn't level, so the platform would just, kind of wobble. And the basement also leaks a little bit when it rains, so if that plywood got wet, it would eventually warp the wood, over time, and then it would just make that wobbly problem even worse. So that was not an option. What I did to start out with is I had actually this weight bench set here behind me that was just left over from my high school days, so I kind of pulled that out of storage and set that up. I think I got this off of Amazon if I remember correctly, and then I bought like a 300-pound weight set at Dick's Sporting Goods, and that's where I got started. And then the deadlift platform, the way I got around that is I ended up buying a horse stall mat, cutting it into 3 sections. So I put like one section on either side of the bar for the plates would land, and then just took a scrap piece of plywood and ran that between the 2 mats because the plywood is 3/4 of an inch thick and the horse stall mat is 3/4 of an inch thick. So it made a level platform, which it worked. And then the 3rd section I put off to the side and I stacked all my weights on there. That way, when it rained and the basement leaked, my weights wouldn't get wet and wouldn't rust. So that was the bare bones basic of how I got it started. And then I just had a few other random pieces of workout equipment, like an ab wheel that I bought off of Amazon for like $7, a jump rope, and a couple random dumbbells, I think. So that was how this home gym got off the ground, but it still presented a lot of problems. The biggest headache initially were these 2 support poles in the middle of the basement, and they were so frustrating because if I was doing like circuit training kind of thing, they were always in the way. If I was doing squats, I could only take like 1 step out of the squat rack, and I couldn't set up the squat rack anywhere else because it was too uneven to squat. So it was a real headache trying to figure out how to make this space work. And to add to all of that, the ceiling is really, really low. There was no like overhead pressing going on. The only way I could do, like any kind of like pressing movement sort of thing was if I was sitting on the bench, like a military press or a Z press. I did those a lot where I was like, sitting on the ground. So that was how I got any kind of overhead work done. But yeah, not a lot of Olympic lifting. Every now and then I'd feel brave enough to do like power cleans, but even then I still had to position myself so that my head would go up in between the rafters. But it was the only space I had. I couldn't afford a gym membership, so I just had to make it work, and I did. But anyways, if you get nothing else out of this video, I guess I just want to say that it was actually a really, really good learning process for me because I learned how to work with less than ideal conditions. I learned how to improvise, how to come up with creative solutions, and do things that I wasn't really comfortable doing. So, especially when it came to like conditioning, where I'm usually moving around a lot, and I didn't have that available to me. So I learned how to, get in, some conditioning, like high intensity stuff, using very limited space. So there's a lot of body weight stuff. So just, supersetting, circuit training, things like that in creative ways. Even the poles that I was talking about a minute ago, how they kept getting in my way, I found a way to actually put those to good use. I bought some resistance bands, and I would do various exercises with the bands wrapped around the post. And then I would also do these hamstring curls, where I'd put some weight on the bar and then use those poles to hold the bar in place. And that's an exercise that I have a hard time replicating even in a gym. By the end of the year, I actually had a really nice setup. I kind of improvised and just learned how to make do with what I had. So if you're in a similar situation to me, where you really want to work out, you really want to lift weights, but you don't have the means to do it, maybe you just have to be a little more creative with the space that you have. Also, if you absolutely have no way of lifting in your house, your apartment, wherever it is that you live, think about working for a gym. That's the only I still can't afford a gym membership. That's the only reason I have one now, is because I work for a gym and I get a free membership. So think about that. Also, people are I shouldn't say giving away, sometimes they are, but people are trying to get rid of gym equipment all the time. Go to Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, any of those sites or related sites. One thing I'll say is, if you're buying weights, if you're buying 45-pound plates with the intent to deadlift, make sure they are the same diameter as the ones you currently have, because not all 45-pound plates are exactly the same size. And you'll have, when you start stacking them up on the bar, they won't sit level. You'll be kind of like staggered all over the place. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it informational and kind of encouraging, and kind of motivates you and kind of get those creative juices flowing if you're thinking about coming up with your own home gym. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in episode 2.